Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you're joining us from in the world. We're coming to you on this Sunday morning, which is Mother's Day. So happy Mother's Day to everyone out there. Welcome to our Open Up Live Talk Show. I'm RJ Horner. I'm the host and facilitator here and in my own programming called Live and Love Life. I'm also the vice president of Voice of Men 360. Let me share a brief introduction about Voice of Men, International Men's Day, and why this talk show Open Up is so important. Voice of Men 360 is a not-for-profit organization founded in 2020 based in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Many boys and men are seeking help and support in many areas of their lives. We understand the tremendous need and demand that requires from our men and boys in society. So Voice of Men 360 was born out of providing this tremendous need, stepping up to help provide services and support to our men and boys and the life challenges they face. Here at Voice of Men 360, we are part of International Men's Day. IMD has been serving in over 21 years and is now represented in 90 countries around the world doing various activities regularly. IMD follows 6 pillars, which represent the overall well-being of men and boys, and we follow in those same footsteps. Because men are not open with their hearts and willing to share their matters, we keep our emotional challenges within ourselves, and those can cause long-term effects and health conditions. And that's why we want to create an open space and allow individuals to share their life journey through our platform. We aim to create awareness about life challenges, struggles, and overcoming men's ups and downs that they go through in their lives. There are no limitations with age, gender, or nationality or ethnic groups with sharing their life journey. All walks of life are invited to participate. Our goal is to make a positive impact on people's lives through this program. Open Up is on Sunday mornings from 10 a.m. to 10:30 Eastern Time. Each week we'll bring a guest to share their life experiences with you. The views and beliefs expressed by our guests are not necessarily those shared by Voice of Men 360. Today, we have invited a special guest, Ivan Labelle. He has graduated from St. Lawrence College, Cornwall, with a bilingual diploma in behavioral service technician. He worked at L'Equipe Psychosociale as an intervention worker with children having behavioral problems. He was a special educator for behavioral problem teens, and then he was an educator and martial arts instructor and became a community worker. He's worked as a group facilitator for Changing Directions, which is a 16-week psychoeducation program with healthy relationships and programs for men charged with domestic assault. He's also started a men's group and was co-facilitator of Men Talk Unique, and then became a co-host for a show called Man to Man and has an impact on many men's issues. Welcome, Ivan Labelle, to Open Up. Thank you for joining us on this Sunday morning and being willing to share your life journey with us.
Thanks for having me.
Wonderful. So you have many experiences in the area of men's work or helping men's grow. Talk a little bit about yourself for a moment, what you do and how you help men.
Okay, well, it's you kind of gave my bio, so I kind of ended up in this journey. It was especially through the Changing Directions program that I saw that some men had got a bad rap, a bad deal, and when it came to places for them to stay, there's no shelter for men in Cornwall. If a man was battered, there's nowhere for him to go, and if he's homeless, well, he sleeps in his truck in the meantime. So those kind of situations, and guys going through a tough divorce and losing it all and all that kind of stuff, kind of motivated me to represent the men and do something on that side. And in our field of work, it's mostly women, so that the themes usually are about, it's usually about violence done to women and all that, but men are exposed to way more violence. We have more dangerous jobs. We play more aggressive sports. growing up, you're more likely to be in a scrap or something, and because you're playing sports and all that kind of stuff. There's more men gangs. There's more, all of that stuff. So men are exposed to a whole lot of violence as well, and we don't seem to discuss that much. And then there's a myth that men don't speak, and my experience was when I did those men's groups that guys talk, they want to be heard. But contradiction to that is when men go for counseling or something like that, and they're put on a waiting list for a year and a half. That doesn't work well for men. We're fixers. We want to fix things right away. So guys usually, by then I'll have figured it out, and they don't want to be on a waiting list. They don't wait. And the other difference too is men don't rally together. We don't unite to go, this is our cause and we want these services. While there seems to be a tendency of women to unite and fight back the injustices of society, guys are more like lone wolves when it comes to that. So I guess all of that is the behind the scenes motivation to represent men.
You just highlighted a couple things that we'll talk about throughout this show. But I do want to go back a moment and talk about what brings you to this passion for helping men. Let's just talk about your childhood for a moment. What was that like? And maybe were there any signs that you wanted to lead a life in this direction at that age?
I don't think so. I think I was brought up in an era where the lines were clearer on what was a man's role and what was a woman's role. We lived in the country, so we had a little hobby farm and that kind of stuff. I got to work alongside my dad a little bit with that, but he was a butcher by day and a farmer by night. So I guess, and that's something that I read in the book Iron John, is that men learn to be men by being with men. So in this generation where, and this is going to sound bad, but it's the truth, where women get custody of boys and they have to teach them how to be men, it's quite a challenge. I myself wouldn't dare say that I know how to raise a girl to be a woman, and yet it seems the contradiction is that people are equipped to raise men. So it's important that they have good role models in their family, that uncles or big brothers or this kind of stuff gets involved with a guy, because it's a bit confusing. My childhood.
So did you have these influences? Did you have the male influences as a young man?
Well, I mean, my dad wasn't the type of guy that said, "Hey, come on, let's go play ball." There was not. I mean, I had male influence as long as I wanted to work alongside him, but it wasn't camaraderie where let's go play. There wasn't a whole lot of that. My dad was from an era that was, raised during the Depression and the World War II vet, and that's it was a whole different thing. So there was nothing that can compare. I couldn't complain to him about stuff because they went to school with no shoes and ate porridge for 3 weeks. So my complaints were not worthy of that. And that was kind of clear to me back then, but I had no indication of what my life mission was back then, to be honest. I never thought, yes, I want to represent men. I kind of just fell in it by proxy, I went to college. I got the psychologist was my teacher. He says, "Oh, we have a center. You can do your field placement there." I got hired there. As it may be, ADHD and other behavior problems are predominant in boys. So I was exposed to lots of young boys and teens, and then doing the men's group. So I've had the male focus in a field that's lots of women. So I had, like, at L'Equipe, we were like 3-4 men and I don't know, 16 women. And on the committees I sit, we're 2-3 men and 20 some women. And, so I've got a good point of view on both. I empathize with both. I think that the women's movement was necessary. When I watch old TV shows from the 60s, or Bewitched or I Dream of Jeannie or stuff like that, the stereotypes are terrible. And something did have to be done. I mean, the violence done to women on screen, James Cagney with the grapefruit in someone's face and all that kind of stuff. But now it's flipped. There was a commercial not long ago. It was about magazines that you could order them, virtually. But this woman had all the magazines behind her bedboard, and she steps on her husband's head to reach for a magazine, and that scene is funny. Well, when I flip those things, I don't think it'd be acceptable if it was the other way around. So I'm hoping someone out there remembers that commercial. Men in the media at the day was, father knows best, and Mr. C from Happy Days and all that. It was positive role models. Now they're, Homer Simpson, Family Guy, Home Improvement. Like the vision of a father today is just this klutzy, goofy guy anymore. So I think somewhere we got to rebalance that.
Absolutely. So you had strong male influences. I kind of got the impression that the not necessarily the attitude, but the impression you get from your parents or your uncles or whatever was kind of suck it up and you got to do this to grow up and to be a man, and that's kind of the impression I've gotten from you. Is that what you're alluding to?
I mean, that's the era of Dirty Harry and John Wayne. You know what I mean? And Tarzan and all. It was the guy that came to the rescue. So yeah, there was a whole lot of that. There wasn't, like, and it's not to dismiss anything, but the commercials on TV today. I mean, we have all kinds of things going on. Back then, it was the Marlboro Man and all this kind of stuff. So Bush Beer, whatever. It was blue collar, tough grit guys on TV all the time. Now there's lots of sensitive guys on TV and this kind of stuff. But yeah, and I mean, I don't think it was a good thing totally. I mean, it was confusing because you felt you couldn't complain or talk about the stuff that was going on, and you didn't know where to go. And I mean, even in this day, there's nowhere for a guy to go. That's why we're the go-to in the men's group. Is this week alone for Mental Health Week, I've had like 5-6 interviews because Stephen and I that's my co-facilitator, are the guys that have decided to do something for men. I mean, that's 2 people out of a 50,000 population. We seem to be the go-to for men. And to come back to the men, I mean, guys given a place to talk, will talk. They'll talk before class, they'll talk during class, and they'll talk after. Men want to talk. They just need a safe place to do it.
Absolutely. And that's kind of what we're doing here. Another safe place we'd like to discuss is we all need our friends, our boys, you know what I mean? People around us who we can open up to or have conversations with. What was like, maybe through college, did you have that camaraderie, or were you able to have these kinds of discussions with your friends?
Okay. So through college, there was 28 of us that graduated, 27 girls and 1 guy. We started out with 2 other guys, but they dropped out after the first year. So when I graduated, I was the only guy in that field. And it's behavioral science, by the way. You said behavioral something else, but anyway, behavioral science technician. Yeah, so that's just it was I guess social work at the time was like a female-dominated field. And in that era, when when I got hired on, the executive directors were predominantly male, but now most of them are women in charge of these agencies and that. So I think the guys are starting to come back in that field. There seems to be more. I imagine it's like the equivalent of being a male nurse, So yeah, I had buddies in college and all that, but we discussed when things got silly, with a few beers and stuff like that. We did the macho stuff and just, talk. And we did have talks about our upbringing and compared those things. But I mean, really, it wasn't until I worked in the field and really saw guys in bad situations that I decided, well, someone has to stand up for this, and I had the opportunity through my work to do that. So I've helped guys get housing. I've helped guys get ODSP, because they don't even know where do you start. While if you're a woman and things go wrong, and I mean, it's sadder situations, right? So if you're a pregnant woman without a home, I mean, there's a lot of people who spring to action. But if you're a homeless 40-year-old guy, well, that's too bad that you ended up there. We don't know where to start. And it's much, much better now. I got to be careful what I say, because now I know the resources. I know who I can reach out to. And just this weekend, prior to this weekend, I brought someone to what we call the situation table. So it's people in hard ways, and all the services are there to go, okay, this is worthy of. And all my colleagues from other agencies who, again, are women, are helping me enormously to get this guy in position, to get his meds and all this kind of stuff. But I think what happens is that as men, the suicide rates in our area for men over 50 are atrocious, and it tends to be this. The typical scenario is a guy with low skills or low education loses his job over at 50 plus years old, gets a divorce, the kids are already moved out, no job, no education, no relationship, no hope. Guys feel shame when they don't have a job to talk about. It's seen a little differently. I remember years ago watching, like I worked in school, so I would finish earlier. And so I'd get the chance to watch Oprah and stuff like that. And I remember one guy talking about, I wish my wife would get a job and all that. And the audience just cursed him. He's raising your children. He's doing all this kind of work and this kind of stuff. And then a couple of weeks later, it was a woman supporting her husband, and it was, get rid of him. He's a bum. Da, 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 da. Well, what happened to him helping at home and raising the children? Right away, he was dismissed as a bum because he didn't have a job. And we've had a guy in our group who, he did time and come out. It's hard to get a job and all this kind of stuff. And it's imagine trying to meet someone else, and what do you do for a living? Oh, I don't work. I don't have a job. And this guy does have a job now, so things did work out, but it's baby steps, But lots of our self-esteem is attached to our position or career or title or this kind of stuff.
Yeah, like even imagine as a father, a stay-at-home father, if that's your situation, because there are a few men out there who have that position.
Mm-hmm.
And imagine telling people that, the stigmatism or the down looks you get because you're a stay-at-home father.
Exactly. I think things have changed quite a bit now. I mean, I keep on saying this, that with the LGBTQ movement, we're really evening the playing, because now it's pretty gray zone and what's a guy thing, what's a girl thing. It's just we're all human, and that has helped us as men enormously to get services, because that discrimination and the funding that used to be uniquely for one ministry and not the other now is pretty well, where do you draw the line, and let's not have lines anymore. So it's more non-binary. It's been a good positive move for getting services for everybody now. So I appreciate that.
Absolutely. And so on the topic of those services, so you talk about the francophone, there seems to be the common theme. Are you in Quebec or?
No, we're an hour away from Montreal type of thing.
Oh, so you are in Cornwall, or?
I'm in Cornwall. I work in Cornwall, but we have like 20% of our population is French speaking.
The reason I was asking that is because would you maybe be able to point out some of the resources available to people out in that region?
Looking specifically
just,
for what?
Again, just maybe some direction that they can find for, again, other than just tuning into Men Talk or Voice of Men 360, where are some of the resources that people can reach out to try and find a resolve that, again, they're the father who can't find a job or they've lost their job recently. What are some of the resources we can do to help them out there?
Yeah, so the fast track to that is really 211. So when you call 211 or go online, they will put you in line with the services closest to you, specific to your needs. So by distance, they will tell you what is closest. I mean, I can go on and on. There's like services you have everywhere. There's social housing. There's the United Way. There's Trillium. There's Canna. There's SAS. There's Baldwin House. There's all kinds of stuff. But as far as specific services for men, they've just opened up, or considering opening up, a home for homeless men at an old hospital we had in town. I want to give a heads up to Akwesasne. Akwesasne is an Aboriginal village just on the outside of Cornwall, and they, hats off to them, have a home, rooms for men who've been battered. And I believe they were the first, and that too, I've used that flyer to say, look, if they have it, there's a need. So I really appreciate what's been going on in Akwesasne. They seem to be more open-minded about that kind of stuff, and it's beautiful apartments for men that can bring their sons and stay there in transition of rough times, you know. But yeah, the 211 is the fast track to getting the services. It will tell you what you need is and what
So
is
is that
closest.
star 211? Is that what they
No,
understand?
it's just like in Ontario, every number like 911, 411, 211, they're all specific to a specific need. But 211 has since the pandemic has really honed their skills. You can get services in numerous languages. They will check back on you, see did you get what you want. If it's far, if it's food, clothing, you know you need to go to a I'm having our soup populaire, you know, like a free lunch and that kind of stuff where the people serve breakfasts and all that. So lots of that is closed down because of the pandemic. I mean, there was a church in town that would give breakfast 3 days a week. There was the Agape Center that would serve lunch, and all of this has been modified because we can't bring people together. So it's been really tough times. But the Social Development Council had applied for grants, and we got you know, food baskets and stuff like that. So Stephen and I have helped deliver them a few times. So I mean, the world's trying to compensate during this pandemic, but it is a truly tough time for lots of the men. It's and anybody, I guess, but it's the routine. It's not seeing somebody else. It's you know, summer's here, so thank God. But I mean, the month of February and January are tough if you're living in an apartment by yourself, be it man or woman. I have done some courtesy calls, and one woman, and to me this is the saddest example, said, you know, she's told me in French, you know, I have to talk to myself, otherwise I'm scared to lose my voice because I have no one to talk to. And she was like 90-some years old. So this pandemic is going to impact people's mental health for sure.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you mentioned mental health because if we can touch on it very briefly, you are a 3-time cancer survivor. We didn't get to that in your bio, but if you wouldn't mind just talking about how you overcome the mental struggles that come along with not 1, but 3 cancer, you know, scares.
Okay. So the first one was a stage 4, and it was adeno. Let me get this right. They told me it was adenocarcinoma, which was like you had a 90% chance of dying. And then what I had was a form of testicular cancer instead, which was a tumor on my aorta, which was the good news that it was a curable cancer. And that started my journey of, you know, 4 months of chemo and then 2 months recovery. And then I've had a surgery. I've got a scar from my sternum to my pubic area where they took out all my organs to go get that shrunken tumor now that was shrunk by the chemo. So in brief, what it does to your mental health is you kind of just like I always tell people, it's like a carnival ride, you know. You ask the doctor, well, what happens if I don't take chemo? Well, you're going to die. So I guess you just decide, okay, that's what I'm going to do. So you strap in for the ride. You go through the ride, you do what you got to do, and you stay as positive as you can. Like, it never crossed my mind that I could die. I'm a big Rocky fan, and it was Rocky movies that were playing end to end on the TV while I was hospitalized and all that. And I'm a big fan of one more round. And in chemo, it's always one more round, and you progressively get weaker and sick. Like I'd have to bring a chair to the stove in order to heat up soup. Like I was that tired. And you know, I'm in great shape now compared to that, but I mean, it was a bit of a recovery as well. So yeah, coming back to it, you strap in for the ride, and it's only when you're all done. And I want to put this out there for people. You know how scared you are when you find out you might have cancer. Well, once you're a cancer survivor, you live with that all the time. You just desensitize to it, because any follow-up, I could find out I've had it again. And I found out 2 other times when I felt perfectly fine that, oh, we have to, you know, get this. So the second time was 15 sessions of radiation. And I'm lucky, even through cancer, I seem to look healthy. I have rosy cheeks. So when I was going for radiation, they asked me who I was waiting for. And I'm like, no, I'm the patient, because everybody else is gray or green. But that too makes you really tired. And that was my 3rd time, sorry. So I had the two different types of testicular cancer. I had the tumor on the aorta, and then 2 years later, 2007 was the first one. 2013 was I had a different type of testicular cancer where they had to remove one of my testicles. And then the third one was a lymphoma from the rib, from the second cancer. So I had to get the radiation. So in short, I mean, after I went through the first one is maybe months later, I had like post-traumatic stress. I noticed when I would say the word cancer, I'd get like emotional, and I didn't know why. I'd be like teary-eyed and all this kind of stuff. And I'm way past that now. But I think it's like, you know, people it's not a nice comparison, but if people are, you know, in prison or whatever, you suck it up while you're in it, and it's when you come out of it that you feel, oh my God, I just survived this, you know, maybe like people who've been to war or prisoners in bad camps and all this kind of stuff. I think while you're in it, you can't allow yourself to be weak, but afterwards it's like, wow, that was one heck of a ride, you know. So I hope that helps clarify things for you.
Absolutely. No, that touches on a lot of points, especially the last one that you said, that you got to, or you can't allow yourself to be weak, because it's an unfortunate that you're in that condition and your mental or even physical strength may lead you to an overall sense of poor well-being, which could lead to mental strain and further complications, right? So I think by if we can manage to keep that attitude while we're going through it, we can come
and I mean,
stronger.
You know, a lot of people tell you, you know, it's attitude, like you got to stay positive and all that. It's easy to stay positive when you get good news. So my first cancer, you know, like there's a certain alpha theta protein count that has to go down, and after every session, the oncologist would tell me, okay, it's going in the right direction. So you're encouraged. But I'd be getting my chemo, and I'd see people getting bad news, and you know, they start crying and stuff. And I don't think it's a question of attitude. I think you know, attitude helps, but bottom line is prognosis. You know what I mean? I seen some sad things. I remember there was a woman from Gatineau who went up to get her chemo, and she was like 7 months pregnant, and they told her, no, her blood cell count was too low. She'd have to go home. She couldn't get the chemo, and she started crying. I mean, I've seen people, you know, with holes in their face, like from skin cancer, whatever it may be, their legs splitting apart, like sad situations. I was next to a guy who was orange, like his liver cancer. And I mean, I started that experience when I went to the hospital. They were cleaning off the bed of the guy who died the night before. And I was sharing a room with somebody, and he said, yeah, I lost my buddy last night. And he says, I'm on my way out too, but it's been a pretty good life. So you really got to be strong in your head to go, well, that's not going to be me. And that's what I had decided to do. But that was the beginning. That was my day one of being hospitalized and facing that new challenge in my life. Yeah, so it's hard. It is hard for people to go through cancer.
And that's why I'm glad we touched on it, because again, you know what, it's something that you have lived through, and you are a survivor, and that probably gives you a sense of confidence. But there are people in that day one situation who don't know how to handle it.
Yeah, life is precious. There's a saying. There was a doctor, I think it's Dr. Shapiro, her name. She used to be on CTV News, and she said that cancer is a gift wrapped in barbed wire, and it kind of is like that, because most people, when they were asked would they deny going through that experience, they said no, they learned something from it. And cancer slows things down. You know, like if you drive through a town at 100 miles an hour, you don't see the signs. Well, cancer slows you down. You got time by yourself, and you see the signs of what you should be doing. And maybe that was the genesis of I Can Do More for Men or something. Who knows? I used to just lay around, and I called it darkness, my old friend, and just sit around and think, because I was too tired to do anything else, you know. So
right. Absolutely. And so let's talk. I mean, we're going to run over time here, but let's have this conversation, because you help men. You help men to overcome some of their issues. The first one of the ways you do that is you have a talk show called Man to Man. Let's talk a bit more about that, please.
Okay, so it's like one thing leads to another, right? So the local television was looking for something else to do, and they asked us if we wanted, because they knew we were working with men, did we want to do a little TV show? And so Man to Man is pretty well. We invite some of the professionals in town or well-known people, and we just go through their journey with them. And it's pretty well, tell us about your starts of, your childhood or whatever, what influenced you, what your passions are, and all that. And then at one point we talk about mental health and what, and everybody's had a challenge in life at one point. Mine was cancers and divorce, and others are, suicide attempts, depression, or raised by parents that were depressed or not present or whatever. So everybody has a moment in their life where they got knocked down and they got up again, as the song goes. Um, but I don't think anybody goes through life unscathed. We have stuff that impacted our lives. I mean, there's some of them, even though it seemed like everything was 100%, they had a brother who had severe addictions or stuff like that. So this talk show gives a format to allow people to say men can talk about feelings, men can feel about other people, men have empathy, and men can impact some changes in the world. So though, I mean, our viewership is probably not large. I've had people go, "Hey, you've got that TV show 4 or 5 times," and it's been a great experience. We're going to start back again in June, and it's been fun. Yeah.
Wonderful. And it's a very similar format to what we've got going on here. So I do have to applaud you for that and putting that out there because again, every little bit of influence we can do to help our men to grow is that much more important.
That's right. So we often, during that TV show, we'll talk about our men's group. We'll mention where they have the men's group. So it helps us recruit a few people as well who dare to reach out. But yeah, it's who knows where life brings you, and now I'm on this show today. So
exactly,
I mean, you guys,
and we've had Stephen on the show.
right.
You mentioned him a couple times. So you're the co-facilitator for Men Talking. Let me see if I can get this right. I think we call it Communique.
Communique. So yeah, it's a name I put together. So in English, it's Men Talk, and I'm like, what? How can I translate that? So communique, it means to communicate, but is men and unique is unique. So it's unique men, and if you put it together, it's communique, like to communicate. So
yeah.
it's kind of sweet that I come up with that.
So so tell us a bit about your influence with Men Talk then.
Oh, well, I mean, I was doing groups all along, and then I had this void. And as you probably figured out, where I work is a French health center. But if I partner up with someone, then I can offer like a bilingual service. So I went to this meeting where Steve was a volunteer, and I talked about starting a group. And I said, it's because I'm tired of seeing men sleep in trucks. And he said to me, well, I've slept in my truck. And I'm like, okay, then you understand. And he wanted to do groups as well. So we started Men Talk. And I was in community work in that field. Steven's a trucker. So, I kind of guided him, but he's the daddy of the group. He's the empathy, and I'm kind of the guidelines. And it's been a good relationship. It started off slow, and that really concerned him. But in community work, I know that things grow over time. You have an event, there's 50 people this year, next year there's 150, and then the year after you got 500. So I wasn't as worried about that as him. But we grew together, and we ended up being, so we're co-facilitators in that group, and we're co-host on the Man to Man talk show. And this week we've been busy with men's mental health. Together and separately, we did Melanie Brule, who's does a mental health show. She's a singer-songwriter, and she had us as a guest this week. So we did a brief little stint on Cogeco together as well. So I guess we're becoming the faces of men's health.
And we're proud that you are, because again, Men Talk has done some tremendous work already. Again, they've had a lot of reach, so we're thankful to have that program around, and we follow in its footsteps in a lot of ways. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
So as we walk out of this show, Can you give us some advice that we can give to our young men moving forward so they can have a little bit of a better stance?
Yes, I think you know what. So last week our theme was something to this effect. It was a quote from Marcus Aurelius, who said, "Do not discuss what it is to be a better man. Be one." So deep down in our hearts, we know what men of honor are. So, boys, I mean, if you need guidance, reach out. If you know in your heart that you're doing the right thing, trust in that gut feeling that what is right, avoid what is wrong, and rally for us. Like, unite in the cause and talk about feelings, all that. Let's get rid of the myth that boys and men don't need to talk. It hasn't been my experience at all. Men given and boys given an occasion to talk. When I was working with teens, I mean, they told me their life stories, right? So, given a place and a safe place to talk, boys will talk. So, reach out. I'm not asking you to go cry in a corner or anything, but stand up for what you believe in, and identify with whoever you have to be, and be that person and be the best that that can be.
Wow, some great advice there for our young men. Certainly going to make some powerful men from those statements. So, finally, what can we do as a society to help our young boys?
You know what? I think we have to review. If we look at dropout rates and all this kind of stuff, it's boys that are dropping out of school. It's 2 women for every guy coming out of university. So I think we have to take a second look at how education is done. I mean, when you're 16 years old, and if we're Canadian pioneers, we go way back. We were rowing canoes, and now we have to listen to Romeo and Juliet. Maybe they didn't consider boys' needs back then. They've done away with lots of shop classes and this kind of stuff. I think we have to bring back a little more of what was seen typically as male orientation. Not, please don't see that in a threatening way, but somewhere we need those outlets. If you read Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus, I mean, we are different in many ways, and how we handle things are different. So I think school boards now should consider, what does a boy need to want to stay in school? What does he need to encourage him to go to university or take on a trade and all this? And I think that mentorship, I mean, what you had with your shop teacher, I mean, most times it was another dude, and greasy hands or whatever, and working on stuff, you felt like, oh, maybe I'm at the right place. So I'm not dissing literature. My son's a graduate in literature, and I'm sure he's read Romeo and Juliet, and he's read all kinds of books. He devours books. He's a teacher in Sweden now. um, but that's it. Find your passion and follow it. But I mean, I think school boards have to offer a place where you can pursue your passion.
Mhm. And I think I love that you touched on that. We're different. We are unique and separate in different ways. And there's a long way between separate entrances for boys and girls, and providing programs that can cater to the nurturing of boys versus girls.
That's
You know what I
right.
mean? And still making them suitable for the lives. So,
It's a quote from a show I had seen, but you know, it was Coast to Coast, and the guy said, when we become all the same, then we're insignificant. So I think it's okay to go, we're two different genders, or whatever identification you want to take, but it's okay to identify, not we're not all the same. It's not true. In my heart and soul, it's not true that boys and girls are the same. There's just, you watch boys play together and you watch girls play together, and if I don't know, just the school. You don't hear guys like I'm with my fiance now. She has 2 young daughters, and when they're playing or not getting along, that's high pitched squeal. I raised 2 boys. I never heard that before, but I'm hearing it now. But it was different things. So we handle things in different ways, and we can't undo 5 million years of genetics or whatever how long we've been around. But we're constantly evolving and I think men are becoming softer, more caring men every generation. I think of the way I was raised and the way I raised my children and the way my father was raised. And every generation is more in touch with their children. They make them more their priority. I had read this book on pioneer times in Canada, and we were like livestock. They go, oh, I lost another one today, and that was in reference to one of their children. I mean, you'd have 11 kids and the 7 would pull through type of thing. So, with health services and all that, we're doing much better now, and people have more quality time with their kids and invest in them. They're the future.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you know what? We are doing what we can to help our society grow and to help raise our next generation. We learn from our mistakes of our parents because, look, they did the best that they can. They were doing what they were taught to do. So I think over time we evolve. And that's all these conversations can do, is help people grow and help people change.
I think you nailed it. I think every generation, you said it. When you do the best what you can with what you know, and every generation becomes just a little more polished, so that was perfect.
Ivan, thank you. Some of the subjects we've talked about today are not easy to talk about. Not everybody's willing to share their personal life stories and experiences. So thank you. We appreciate your courage and willingness to come share your life story with us today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure. It was a good time.
Absolutely. So we thank Ivan Labelle for joining us and sharing his life journey with us today. When people like Ivan come forward and share their life experiences on platforms like ours, especially on social media, it'll help give hope to people out there to change their mindset and change their lives in a positive direction. That's our goal here at Voice of Men 360. We want to bring individuals and allow them to share their life journey, to have an open conversation about men's problems and challenges and how we can help them. So a few announcements to share with you regarding Voice of Men 360. We have 4 live weekly shows. First of all, you just participated in Open Up. Thank you for joining us today's show about people sharing their personal life journeys. That's a live talk show every Sunday morning, normally at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. So please continue to join us and like and subscribe for that. We also have a monthly webinar, which is the first Saturday of every month. Join us for that, 10:30 to 11:30 Eastern Time, first Saturday of every month. We've created a new show called The Unspoken Tears. This is a topic on domestic violence against men, bullying, male sexual abuse, and human trafficking. So this is a very serious subject, and we call that The Unspoken Tears, which is the second Saturday of every month from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. We also have Vili, which is a Tamil language live talk show. That takes place twice, Wednesdays at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time and Sundays at 8 a.m. Eastern Time for people who live outside of Canada. And we have a panel discussion twice a month. We could carry that on in both English and Tamil. So please visit our website for more information on that. And we turn our podcast, or we turn our content into podcast episodes. So please reach out and follow us for more regarding those episodes. We also have a monthly men's group, which is the third Sunday of every month from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern Time. This is a men's only support group. So please join us for the next one, which is Sunday, May 16th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And we have our first observant of the World Day of the Boy Child. That is observed on May 16th. So please join us May 16th for our special forum from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time, where our theme will be guiding the boy child, positively impacting the world. And so Oliver Levy will be hosting that discussion with speakers from US, Canada, and the UK. And then thank you for participating in our show. There are no limitations or gender, age, nationality. We want everyone to participate in our show. We want all guests. And if you want to be a guest on our show or willing to share or be a part of our organization and help in any way, we'd love to hear from you or work with individuals, professionals, government organizations, NGOs, and any businesses that really want to help support the men's work. So again, we are Voice of Men 360. Thank you for joining us. You can reach out to us at our phone number, 437-889-8329. Again, our phone number is 437-889-8329. Email us at info@voiceofmen360.org, which makes our website, www.voiceofmen360.org. You can find us on all social media channels. We are Voice of Men 360. And please like and subscribe for more of our YouTube content. Thank you for joining us today. We want to reach out to more people and help more people. Please continue with your tremendous support. Thank you for joining me today. Until next time, I'm RJ Horner. Better days ahead.